Good morning, grandkids. Today we're going to have another episode of the book I'm writing called The Listener, based on my game, The Listener. This is the next chapter. When Shadowmere and I arrived back at the sanctuary, I saw several carts and horses. What was going on, I wondered. I stopped Shadowmere a ways out and went sneaking down through the trees to the kids' camp. "What's happening here?" I asked him. He looked ready for battle and had his blade drawn. "Guards have come and fighting's going on out here and inside. I decided I should stay in my camp because I was far outnumbered without you." I slipped through more trees around the small lake and saw several guards. Soldiers? They had some of the newer Brotherhood recruits out here. They were fighting each other right outside the sanctuary door. I hurried down into the melee, fighting blade to blade. Several lost their lives, but they had already taken down some of the recruits as well. I felt a guard approaching me from behind. One was in front of me, so I was caught. I took out the one in front of me and was surprised I didn't feel a blade in my back. Finally it was over, and all that was left was death and blood. The men on the ground were Pontius Oculatus. How did they find this place? What was I going to find inside? I turned, and to my shock and grief, I saw the kid. He was on the ground in a pool of blood, a blade protruding from his chest. I ran to him. He was barely alive. Now I knew why I hadn't gotten a blade in my back. He looked up at me and said, "I told you I'd always have your back." I said, "You have been a sweet light in my life and my champion." He smiled at that, and then he was gone. My heart filled with grief and rage. I didn't even know his name. Someone was going to pay. More than just the men here in this bloody mess. Someone was behind this, and I would hold them responsible for the kid's death. Inside it was smoky, and I could see fire farther inside. I could already see one dead body before I even stepped away from the door. I could hear two men talking. Which one of these was the rat? I don't know. Does it matter? Suppose not. Wonder what's taken the other agents from getting in here. I didn't think there was that much fighting to be done outside. One of the speakers said, "We've got to get out of here. This fire will be raging soon." I turned the corner as they were headed for the door, and I had to deal with them in hand-to-hand combat. After they were dispatched, of course, I stopped and looked into Astrid's bedroom. It was being overcome with smoke and fire. I went on down the steps into the main hall, which had fires in several pockets getting out of control. I kept calling out if anyone was here. I could hear more fighting, but I couldn't see anything through the flames and the smoke. I finally found an opening between fires and slipped through, going in deeper. I was beyond the point of no return and would surely get trapped in here. Then I saw a dead werewolf. Astrid had lost her husband. I wondered how many others of the Brotherhood were gone. I had to find Nazir. Also, check on the night mother. As smoke shifted, I saw an agent near Arnjorn. As smoke shifted, I saw an agent near Arnjorn. I was so scared and angry by now that I simply beat the agent to death with a warhammer I had. I called out again for survivors. I started up the wide stairs, but there was so much smoke I couldn't see my way through. I went back down and toward the waterfall, the safest place in here. Maybe I could get up through the night mother's room. But no, fire was pouring out of that tunnel. I walked around among the spots of fire, not seeing how to get through or if anyone else was alive. The fire was hot, and I was getting singed, and the smoke was choking me. I went back to the waterfall and stood under it in the pool. At least I'd be thoroughly wet before attempting another run through the fires. Finally, I started through them again, running into another Pontius Oculatus agent, and ran him through to the hilt of my blade with savagery in my heart. My adrenaline was running high. I pushed him off my blade and backwards into the fire and kept on moving. I went through Gabriella's room and into the dining hall, hoping to see Nazir. Oil was spilled and on fire and spreading. Past the blade, I could hear the clashing of swords. As I rounded this fire, I found Vizar and Nazir, and I entered the battle with them against more agents, and we finished them off together. When it was over, Nazir and I were face to face. His face was covered in dark soot from the smoke, and so much of my hair was singed and curled. We stood there stunned and staring at one another. He reached out and drew me to him. Thank the divines, you are alive. The Emperor is still alive. It was all a trap. Someone set me up, I told him. Considering the Oculatus showing up, I had assumed as much, he replied. He then pulled me to him again and said in that deep, husky voice, I'm glad you made it out alive. I was really worried about you this time. I'm glad you're here now with me. It sounded so good, and he felt so good. I just rested my head on his chest. I could have stayed like that forever. But, of course, the fires raged, and it sounded like the place was going to collapse at any minute. Vizir said, we need to get out of here before we're either roasted alive or crushed to death. We all ran and finally found ourselves in the Night Mother's room, and she spoke to me. Listener, I am your only salvation. Come, embrace me. As Nazir and Vizar ran on, I turned to the Night Mother's coffin, and as I called out to them, wait, wait, I slipped inside in the safety of the coffin, and it snapped up around me. I'm trusting you, Mother, but you'd better somehow take care of Nazir. At that point, I heard glass shattering. That beautiful stained glass window, I assume, had exploded from the heat. I hoped Nazir was standing in the waterfall. Then the Night Mother said, sleep, listener, as the red glow of her eerie face grew dimmer until all was darkness. As I was waking, I heard Babette and Nazir. Hurry, Nazir, I'm telling you she's in there. I could hear him straining, boards and rocks falling away. There must have been a collapse that buried the coffin. I could now see the eerie red glow of the Night Mother's face in the dark. She spoke once again to me. "You must find Astrid. She's here, in the sanctuary." When she had finished speaking, they had the rubble moved from the coffin and was hauling me out of it. I hurriedly brushed their hands off of me and was saying in a rush, "I have to speak to Astrid. She's somewhere here in the sanctuary. I must find her." "She's here? By Sithis, I thought we'd lost her too. Come on, let's go," Nazir exclaimed. I didn't even know which way to go to start looking for her. And why did the Night Mother insist that I find her? Surely she would have gotten out already. It seemed that during my time in the coffin, the fires had been dying down, leaving just small pockets of flame and lots of rubble. We went down the large steps into the main area, and I went over to the waterfall in case she had made it to the water for safety, but she wasn't anywhere around. We all stopped at Abjorn's werewolf body for a bit. I wondered if she knew. Surely, if she did, this would have been where she'd be. We kept going until we were up by the planning table with the maps, which were burnt crisp. I decided to look into Astrid's room again, which had been full of fire and smoke the first time I looked. I went into her bedroom and gasped out loud at what I saw. Nazir and Babette crowded in behind me, and I heard a whimper from Babette and heard Nazir whisper, "By the gods, what has she done?" There was Astrid's body, burned and charred, laid out in a sacrificial circle, lit candles surrounding her. She had to have lit them and placed them there herself. But what did it mean? I heard a choking sound coming from her burned body. I heard Babette say, "She's still alive," in wonder and horror. "Astrid," I said, "the Night Mother sent me." "Shh," she said. "There's much I have to say. Not much time left. I'm sorry for what I've done. The Oculatus, Marrow, he said that if I gave you up to them, they would leave the Dark Brotherhood alone forever." "You," I said, "you did this," I said, spreading my hands, indicating the rubble and the fires. I turned and looked at Nazir. "I guess we found our traitor," he said. I turned back to Astrid as she was struggling to talk some more. "I was such a fool. All of this, I caused all of it. The dead members, friends, my husband, you. I saw his body, and I almost killed you. You sent me to that fool gourmet so they could kill me. You did. But instead, you've killed almost half the Brotherhood. You traitor," I said as I lowered my voice. "You've just proven to me, again, not to trust anyone." "Yes," she wheezed. "I set you up. I betrayed you. And the Night Mother, the Brotherhood, everything that I hold dear. And Marrow betrayed me. I just wanted things to stay the way they were. Before Cicero, before the Mother came, and you, the listener, before you all showed up here. I thought I could save the Brotherhood, but I was wrong. Yes, I retorted. You are hiding behind your mask, like everyone I've ever known. I know your kind well. But you're alive, she gasped. You've made it through so much. There's still a chance to start over, to rebuild. That's why I did this, she said as she tried to move a feeble, charred hand around her circle. I prayed to the Night Mother. I made myself a sacrifice. I asked her to send someone to kill me. Then this is why she sent me to find you. She heard your prayers, all right, and she sent me. Yes, I'm saying you were right, she went on, gasping worse. The Night Mother is right. The old ways. They guided the Brotherhood for centuries. I was a fool to oppose them. I stood there in stunned silence, knowing what was coming, as she struggled on. To prove my sincerity, I prayed for a contract on myself. You lead the family now. I give you my blade of woe. Take it. Use it to see this through. You must kill me. Gladly, Astrid, gladly. Are you ready, sister? I pulled out my own dagger. I would have gladly choked her with my bare hands. Her death didn't matter to me, as I had known I would eliminate her someday anyway. It was her betrayal I hated her for. But then, who am I to talk, when I had planned to betray her eventually? But I hated her for the destruction and the deaths that she had caused, for the death of my funny friend the kid, that most of all. Nazir came forward and said, Astrid did the right thing here. Now you must end her suffering. And he took my dagger out of my hand, picked up the blade of woe, and handed it to me. I struck her savagely, long past her death, but I had heard her say, as her last breath left her, "Thank you." I struck her one last time, saying, "This one is for the kid." I left the sanctuary. The deed was done. Astrid had worn a mask like everyone. I was betrayed. Then I thought of Nazir. I had started feeling so close to him, but was he wearing a mask also? Did he really care about me as he seemed to? I didn't really know. I felt lost. They hadn't followed me out, and I went over to the campsite and picked up a couple of bottles of mead and brought them back over and sat down beside the kid's dead body. I looked at him, and that dang helmet was cocked over one eye. I took it off his head and smoothed back his hair. I leaned down and left a parting kiss on his forehead, as I whispered to him that I had avenged his death. Shadowmare even came over to us and hung his head low over the kid, then shifted and actually gave me a lick on my cheek. I loved this horse. I took out my journal and began to write. I have Babette, Vizar, and Nazir, and they will help me take the Night Mother to the Dawn Star and to Cicero, and we will start over. I still had a contract from the Night Mother to fill. I still had to kill the Emperor. And that's the end of the story for today. So, next Friday will be another great adventure for the listener and for all of us. I will see you then, grandkids. Bye-bye for this time.